So here we are at 12:30, and welcome to this week's episode of Thrive Live. So for those of you that are not familiar with me, you do not know my work, it may be the first time that you're watching this. My name is Cora Darlington, and I'm a burnout breakthrough specialist, specifically working with entrepreneurial women in leadership, that really want to create success for themselves outside of the struggle and the overwhelm and the exhaustion and the burnout. And they really want to find out for themselves what it is to create work-life balance, what it is for them to, have it all. So that's what I do. This week's episode is going to be a doozy, and what a day to have it, with the UK almost certainly going into another lockdown today. Before we get started on this week's episode, though, as always, I'm just going to let you know that after this episode I'm going to be putting in the comments a link to book a free masterclass with me. There is one going on this Thursday morning at 10 a.m. And I'm also going to be putting a booking link in, as always, for you to be able to book a call with me if you feel curious as to what it would be like to work with me. So episode 4 this week is the one radical shift to avoid getting sucked into global burnout. So as I said, the UK today is looking at moving into yet another lockdown, right? And last week's episode, for those of you that watched, I was going to be talking about something completely different this week. But honestly, between then and now, I've been witnessing a lot of people going into what I would definitely describe as to be burnout. I think it's something that we're all going to be facing. I think when we originally came into this whole challenge, we thought that it was going to be a short period of time, and now, of course, it's going on and on and on, and the level of resilience that is being asked from all of us, I think, is huge, and some of us are equipped for it and some of us are not. And so I thought it was really, really important to talk about how we can equip ourselves for this. And I really want to add to that, not just in survival mode, though, because that, I think, is the default for a lot of us, especially, we've never had a challenge like this, most of us, in our lifetime. But the temptation is to just go into survival mode. I just need to get through this. And I want to bring something different to that. I want to say that you can not only get through this, we can not just get through this, but, we can really find a way to be well and thrive during this time. So as I was saying, as people, we've never ever been more challenged, I guess, than right now. There's so much uncertainty, so much restriction. We're being separated from our loved ones. Normally in times of adversity like this, we come together. We rely on our loved ones, human connection more and more. Well, the way that this is at the moment, this is actually separating loved ones. We're being separated from our family and our friends. There's a division in opinions, so people have got very different opinions. This is occurring very differently to each and every one of us, and of course that means there's divisiveness and separation going on in families and communities. I'm hearing stories coming in of people being attacked in shops for their choices, verbally, and so there's a lot going on. And even going to the local shop, even doing your local food shop, is taking so much more resilience, so much more energy than it ever was before. The things that we're used to doing day to day that were nothing, they were easy. Now those things are becoming more and more difficult. And as business women, it is also really tough. Again, lots of uncertainty. Some of us are continuously having to pivot our businesses in the response to the ever-changing guidelines, and then on top of that, we're still parents. This is another level again of resilience when you're parenting during a time like this as well. So we're parenting, we're still having to clean our houses because they're still getting dirty. In fact, with us at home more, they're getting even dirtier. So having to cook and clean and all the stuff. Now, the energy management to be able to navigate that is huge. So that's the first thing to acknowledge. the resources we need to navigate this are big. They're bigger than ever. And what are we doing about that? This is the thing. Are we in like a victim mentality about that? Are we putting our heads in the sand and just thinking we'll just survive this? Or are we really just asking ourselves, what do I need to be able to navigate? What is going on right now? And I think I talked about this a few episodes ago. In order to do that, the first start point is just accepting that this stuff is happening, and that's really, really difficult in and of itself. So chances are you are starting the day with some type of level of resilience and energy. But by the time you get to the evening, you are so tired, you don't know what end you're coming out of. All right. So you kind of start with like a full cup. And then as the day goes on, it empties, empties, empties. And then by the end of the day, you have literally got nothing left to give. Or you start the week with a level of positivity and even hope. And by Friday, all you want to do is pull the covers over your head and not come out again. So what to do about all this stuff? Okay, so what do we do? What do you do to stop yourself from being sucked into this, what I see is coming at like a global burnout, like physically, mentally, people are really, really struggling. So I talk about the shift. That's what's in the heading, the one radical shift to avoid this stuff. So the radical shift is something that underpins all of my work, is something that I talk about a lot. If you've ever been to one of my masterclasses, if you have ever heard me speak, this is the underpinning of my work, and it is something called radical self-nurture. So what is radical self-nurture? So radical self-nurture is when you have the shift, the internal personal shift, and realize that you are the biggest priority in your life, that you are the asset, the biggest asset in your life and in your business. And if you go down the drain, everything else will go down the drain. So you absolutely have got to make yourself the priority. Now, we all know about self-care. All right, we've heard self-care so many times, rammed down our throat. Now, classically, when we think about self-care, we think about things like having a hot bath or having our nails done, going for a spa weekend. All of those things are amazing things to do, right? So I'm not going to war with any of that. But normally, this is how we approach self-care from two different aspects. This is how I see we approach self-care. We approach self-care either from the place of when everything else is done, then I will. So that's really flawed, because that either means it's not happening at all, because especially now there's so many other things that if you wait until all of that other stuff is done, the chances are you're not a priority. You're not getting what you need. Or it's happening, but it's not happening consistently enough for you to actually feel the benefit of it, right? Because you've got to be doing this stuff enough for you to actually feel the benefit of it. The other place that I see our self-care coming from is from a place of already burnout. So now I'm so depleted. Now my system has broken down so much, I have no other choice now other than to look after myself. Now, the cycle that normally comes off of that is we do all the things that we know we need to do. And in the masterclass, I talk about in depth why we don't do those things, because there is a specific reason why we know we should do the things, but yet we don't do the things. So the cycle is we do all the things that we know to do to make ourselves feel better, to renew ourselves, and then we go back out there into our lives and it all goes out the window, and then we crash and burn again. And so the cycle is we build ourselves up, we crash and burn, we build ourselves up and we crash and burn. Now, all of this was happening before COVID. Okay, I've been in business for a long time, working with women specifically on this. So this was something that was predating. Women have been in burnout for a long time because we, put that hat on, we can do everything. Okay. But this is asking something of us on a whole other level. So self-care, I've just talked about self-care. Now, the difference with self-nurture, or the shift to self-nurture, is self-nurture is all about supporting yourself. It's all about encouraging yourself, protecting yourself. It's a very, very different approach. Now, when you learn to treat yourself like that, you have so much more energy and resources to deal with everything and anything. You begin to trust yourself more because you know what you need and you're giving yourself it unapologetically. And also, you're able to make decisions from a much more clear and calm space. It just helps you be able to deal with things, not only from a place of survival, like I said, but from a place of actually self-mastery. Because this is self-mastery. You know, a lot of us are waiting for the conditions out there to get better to allow us to take control of this stuff. But we have got a lot of control in how we support ourselves, and never has it been more important than now. Okay, so radical self-nurture is the shift. It is the shift that you absolutely must have. So let me talk about it practically. So classically right now, what normally happens is we look at our time, and the first thing that we do is put everything in that we need to do. So we just put all the things in that we need to do. And then once all that is done, then we put in maybe a yoga class, or maybe now this is a very, very different approach. This is you identifying everything that you need to help you feel replenished, to help you feel renewed, to help give you energy back, to help you feel good, to allow your energy to rise. You identify what those things are. You put them in first. You put them in first, and then everything else goes in. So it is actually a fairly radically different way to deal with yourself and your time and your life. Okay, so you literally are putting yourself at the center. Now, we have to go through a lot of mindset stuff, some of us, to do that, because there's a voice in our mind that says that's selfish, or we've been brought up to believe that our self-esteem and our self-worth is very much attached to doing for others. So it feels completely alien to put ourselves first. But if you think about it, what I'm saying is absolute common sense. If you are going to be resourced, if you are going to move through this and any other challenge actually in your life, because once this is over, you know, there'll be more adversity. That's how life is. If you are going to do that, and you're going to do that well, and your family and your friends and your loved ones are not just going to get the scraps, because that is what we do with, you know, we keep going on and on and on, and we almost martyr ourselves, you know, put everybody else first. But the reality of it is, we are snapping at our family, we're not present, we're scattered, we're irritated, and that is the version of us that they're getting. So, you know, we're not doing anybody any favors by trying to live our lives from a place of depletion. And, you know, in this space and time right now, like I said, and I'll keep on saying, this stuff has never, ever been more important. So I would encourage you, you can do a couple of practical things. You can get a big sheet of paper and some colored pens, because that helps it feel more like play, less serious. And we definitely need to lighten up a little bit as well, even though the world out there doesn't feel like it wants to give us any reason to do that. So get a big scrap of paper out, and you can map out your week, and you can practice blocking out the space and time that you need first, putting yourself in first. Something really powerful happens when you do that. When you just physically see it on paper, you can put it in your favorite color or whatever it is, but you put your stick in the sand and you say, no, I am going to make myself the priority. I am going to nurture myself. I'm going to encourage myself. I'm going to support myself. I'm going to protect myself, not only for me, but for the people in my life and for my business and, you know, whatever else it is. So that is a practical exercise you can do. But you're asking yourself questions like, what restores my energy? Because again, I'm going to say it again, we are all vitally different to one another. No two people are the same. So what restores Hattie's energy, hi Hattie, and what restores Carrie Ann's energy, hi Carrie Ann, is very different. And so you have to do the work to find out what that is for you. Okay, that you have to go inward. You have to ask yourself the questions for this stuff. So you ask yourself, what restores my energy? What brings me ease and comfort? What has me feel good? answer those things, get clear on those things, and then make those things a daily priority. A daily priority. Because I'm telling you now, if you do not do this, burnout is inevitable. It is just inevitable because of everything that's going on there out there externally. Burnout is inevitable unless you look at this stuff right now. So Hetty is saying you can't pour from an empty cup. Absolutely not. If you're on a plane, they say put your mask on first. Exactly. So we know this stuff. We know this stuff, we do, right? We know the concept of it, but it's putting it into the practice that is the important thing. So if you've got a diary, an online diary, it's going in there and it's blocking it out. It's blocking lunch times out. It's making sure you're eating properly. It's making sure that you're boundaried and you're closing down the laptop when you say you're going to. You know, it's all of that type of stuff. Without it, you are going to be on your knees. So this is really serious, and I really want you to take this on board. Now, as I said, I talk about this in much more depth in the masterclass. I will take you through a specific process that gets you absolutely crystal clear on this, because what I get annoyed at, or what is important to me actually, is that we don't just have like an inspirational conversation, but it is stuff that you can take into your life and that can impact your life right now. This stuff that I'm talking about will impact your life right now. And so, like I said, you can book onto the masterclass. There is one this Thursday morning at 10 a.m. I'll put the link in a bit. And you can also book in a call with me as well if you are thinking about working with me. So all of those things are there. So radical self-nurture. You are getting in front of it. Sometimes our self-care only happens when we're already on our knees. So let's try and get in front of it. Let's get empowered around it. Let's really lead the way for ourselves. This really is self-leadership. All the stuff I talk about is self-leadership, but this really is self-leadership 101, especially if you're one of those people that are out there doing important work in the world, right? You love your work. It has an impact on culture or society. The old kind of paradigm of that, or the old model for that, is, you know, people really suffering and struggling to be in service. But actually, authentically being in service starts with you being in service to yourself first. Because any of the work that you're doing out there, when you're in depletion and you're in resentment, the work that you're doing out there is not even a percentage of what it could be if you're doing that work full up. I mean, that is the reality of it. So the new paradigm, really, the new way forward, if you are in service, you consider yourself to be in service, is to fill yourself up first, and then you will end up doing your best work. You will extend that out into the world. Because when we are extending out into the world from a place of resentment or a place of exhaustion, that is what we're extending out there. We think that we're not, but energetically we are, and that is part of the problem, right? We think that we're part of the solution, but unless you are coming from a place that's full up, you are still part of the problem. Okay, so I'm hoping I've done a really, really good sales job on that for you. And I will not be seeing you next week, because I am having the day with my daughter, who's 10, actually, on Monday. And so my boundaries are that I will be present with her for the day, but I will be seeing you the week after that. I'll speak to you all soon. Bye.